When trust in institutions falls, the typical response is more communication, better messaging, and clearer explanations. But trust is not a communication problem, it is a performance problem, and that distinction matters. So let's talk about what actually rebuilds it. When organizations face trust crises, they usually turn to public relations. They hire communications firms, launch listening tours, create awareness campaigns, rebrand initiatives, and issue statements and apologies. Then they add more explanation. People just don't understand the policy. We need to explain it better. We need more education about our work. They manage narratives, emphasize positive statistics, highlight success stories, control the message, and manage media coverage. All of this assumes the problem is perception, not performance. But people aren't confused about the message, they're skeptical of the promise. Take healthcare. After the Affordable Care Act, many people saw premiums rise, deductibles increase, and plans change. The response was extensive messaging about how many people got coverage, but the people whose costs went up didn't feel messaged into trusting the system again. They needed actual cost relief, not better explanations. The same pattern shows up in economic policy. During wage stagnation, officials emphasized GDP growth, highlighted stock market gains, and explained how the economy was technically strong, while people responded, "My paycheck didn't grow, my rent did." No amount of explaining macroeconomic indicators builds trust when lived experience contradicts them. This creates a credibility paradox. The more institutions focus on messaging without changing outcomes, the less credible they become, because messaging without results looks like spin, deflection, damage control, and ignoring the real problem. You see this clearly with trust in media. When organizations respond to distrust by explaining editorial standards, publishing ethics policies, and running trust campaigns, while making the same prediction errors, showing the same biases, and missing the same stories, the messaging reinforces the problem instead of solving it. People think they care more about their image than their accuracy. So what actually rebuilds trust? Performance, not promises. Trust returns through demonstrated competence. In healthcare, don't say we're committed to affordable care. Reduce prescription drug costs, cap out-of-pocket expenses, simplify billing, and reduce wait times. When people experience improvement, trust follows. In housing, don't say we're addressing the housing crisis. Build affordable units at scale, stabilize rents, create pathways to ownership, and show visible construction. When people see cranes and new buildings, they believe action is happening. In public services, don't say we value your community. Improve school facilities, reduce class sizes, fix infrastructure, and expand clinic hours. Visible improvement builds trust. Statements don't. Large institutions often think they need transformative change to rebuild trust, but research shows small, consistent wins work better. Small wins matter because they're achievable, they can be delivered quickly, they're visible to affected communities, they demonstrate responsiveness, and they build momentum. Compared to approaches in city government, the big promise approach says we're going to transform this city. It takes years, requires massive resources, is easy to fail, and trust doesn't rebuild until completion, if ever. The small wins approach fixes potholes on Main Street in 3 weeks, adds evening clinic hours in 1 month, improves park lighting in 2 months, and speeds up permit processing over time. Each small win is achievable, gets noticed, shows responsiveness, and builds credibility. Trust compounds from reliability, not from grand promises. Transparency also matters more than spin. Trust grows when institutions are honest about limitations. What doesn't work is everything is fine and we're doing great. What works is we're facing these challenges. Here's what we can realistically do. Here's the timeline, and here's how we'll measure success. In public infrastructure, spin sets unrealistic expectations. Delays destroy credibility, and cost overruns create scandal. Honesty sets realistic expectations. And when problems arise, people think they told us this might happen, and here's how they're handling it. Instead of, they lied again. Nothing rebuilds trust like visible accountability. When projects fail, don't make excuses, blame external factors, or continue anyway. Acknowledge failure, analyze what went wrong, change the approach, and sometimes change leadership. When costs overrun, don't hide them. Explain why, show what controls are being added, and demonstrate learning. When services underperform, don't cite metrics that hide the problem. Acknowledge the gap, explain the plan, and show measurable improvement. People don't expect perfection. They expect honesty and responsiveness when things go wrong. Trust actually returns through a cycle. Deliver small, visible improvements. People notice. Be honest about limitations. People appreciate realism. Show accountability when things fail. People see responsiveness. Repeat this consistently over time. A track record builds and trust slowly begins to return. This takes years, not months, but it's the only path that works. Real examples show the same pattern. New York City in the 1990s didn't just promise safety. It delivered measurable crime reduction, and communities saw visible change. Singapore built trust through consistent delivery, transparent metrics, and accountability. Nordic countries maintain high trust through reliable services, transparency, and accountability. The common theme is always the same. Performance builds trust. Messaging alone doesn't. Institutions avoid this path because performance is hard. It takes time, resources, and admitting past failures. It creates real accountability, and political cycles are short. Messaging is easier. It's quick, cheap, carries no accountability, and lets leaders claim they're addressing the problem. It looks like action, but messaging without performance is like painting a broken house. It looks better briefly, and then the rot shows through. When trust falls, institutions reach for messaging, but you can't communicate your way out of a performance problem. Trust returns when services improve visibly, promises match capacity, accountability is real, and results compound over time. This work is unglamorous. It doesn't make great press releases or inspiring speeches, but it's the only thing that actually works. People don't need to be convinced to trust institutions.
They need institutions worth trusting. Deliver that and trust follows. If this reframed how you think about institutional trust, share it. Subscribe for more analysis focused on what actually works, and thanks for watching.